This production is sponsored by The Good Estate Agent. With an average turnaround time of 3 weeks, if you want your house sold quickly, then contact Stefan today on 01942 356 577. Quote Super League Raw for 33% off. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Captain's Run for round number 5. Just, an hour, 2 hours away from a massive clash, and we're going to get straight into this in a minute. Salford, of course, going up against Huddersfield Giants tonight. A team will be left bottom of the league on 0 points by 10 o'clock tonight, but which one will it be? Joining me, as always, Steph. Good afternoon, Steph. Are you well?
I'm very well. It's Thursday and Super League's back. What's not to like? The sun's shining. Everything.
The birds are singing. And the Giants and the Salford Red Devils, well, quite frankly, they've probably been back and two to the loo quite a lot today. This is a big game for them. Let's get straight into it as we do. Massive game this tonight. Huge game. The history on the side of the Salford Red Devils. Last 3 meetings, 3-2 going the way of the Salford Red Devils. But look at that there. All 4 opening fixtures for both sides. The big L against it. In terms of attacking threat, well, Huddersfield have scored more tries thus far this season in Super League, 8-5. Better tackle efficiency as well for Huddersfield, and a better kicking efficiency. That's before, of course, Mark Sneed's absence. Of course, he now at Warrington Wolves. And then finally, that penalty count, Steph, 35-17. That one slide alone, alarm bells for Salford Red Devils tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, those figures will be skewed a little bit from when they put the reserves out against Saints, but Paul Rowley will definitely be concerned about that penalty count, and if they do that this evening, then it's going to be a comfortable win for Huddersfield. So discipline's going to be massive for both teams tonight, I feel. Territory is going to be huge for both as well. So yeah, big improvements for Salford required on that one if they're going to compete tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. You say about the kids, they had 13 in round 4, they had 17 in round 3.
Yeah,
so even when they've had a couple of the big guns out for them, the discipline, and of course, I think you and me have cited Chris Hill a couple of times already this season.
Yeah,
big minutes against Bradford, but that penalty count and all the other things as well. We'll talk about the Giants in a minute because they've got their own problems as well going into this game with the absence of Adam Clune. I don't know if people are aware of that, but Adam Clune's going to be out for about 7 weeks. It's a hammer blow yet again for Luke Robinson. But between these two coaches, they both desperately need a win. But with all the noise that's going on around Salford still, do you feel that really the pressure's on Luke Robinson here to get the win, not necessarily Paul Rowley?
Yeah, obviously it's backs against the wall for Salford and the world against us mentality, and I think any performance for Salford will be seen as a victory tonight for them if they compete in this one and keep it a tight game. Massive pressure on both sides really to get the win, the first win of the season, and obviously one of those records is going to go today unless we get a golden point draw. So which who would rule that one out? That is definitely a possibility. But yeah, I think Huddersfield's injury rows, it's just getting to the point of ridiculous now, isn't it, in terms of the personnel they've got out, and it's 1 step forward and 2 steps back kind of thing. But with those situations, I think Luke's got to use it to his advantage, as daft as that sounds, and use that as motivation as those players coming in to earn the place. It's an opportunity for those players that are coming in to try and cement a first team spot.
Well, we'll get into the squad in a minute, but as we always do on the Captain's Run, let's when we can, we always bring you the best of the press conferences. Let's see what Paul Rowley and Luke Robinson have had to say before this game.
To see them look like they was enjoying themselves a little bit, and even the old boys there who played 80 minutes, Illy and Jack, we probably could have given them a rest for 5 minutes at the end, but it almost seemed unfair. You're going to let them do 75, you might as well let them do 80. So they They were great. Jaden, Ryan were great. I thought they added the stardust to what we needed. There was some really good performances. Great to see Ethan Ryan back. So yeah, it was good to just actually have some fun and concentrate on rugby. It was good.
I think he's a top 4 fullback first and foremost, but he's somebody who's also played on the wing. Just for us as a squad, I think competition for places. I think every good side that you look at, whether it's this side of the world or the other, the Penrith, the Wigans, they have competition for places. And when you have a squad that's healthy and fighting for to get in the side each and every week, I think it makes training better. So bringing somebody of now's quality and I think just adds to our squad.
Yeah, obviously both sides have not got a win today, so in that respect, it's all set up for a good game. So they've been challenging in every game, so they're a good team. Obviously, their problems are very much different than ours, but nevertheless, I've got respect for the selection issues they've had through injuries, etc. But that's the challenge of coaching, So yeah. But we're looking forward to it. It'll be a difficult challenge. They're a good team. It's well documented. They've been, I think, winning every game at half time. So we'll have to be good, obviously.
Every game is important, and I know it's a cliche in itself, but you want to win every game. I've always wanted to win every game, whether I'm a coach, whether I'm a player. Certain games obviously do carry a little bit more weight, a little bit more significance, and I'm not saying that this doesn't. The situation Salford found themselves in, where they are on the table, where we are on the table, how we've just narrowly, lost games throughout the year. Obviously, I'd have preferred to have snatched a few of those and had some more points on the board. Still winning the Challenge Cup, of course. But it is a big game, but I think anybody with half a rugby league brain sort of understands the situation we're in and the players that have been available and where we're at, and I think it'd be quite foolish to just see it as a do or die at this moment in time.
I actually do see it as a do or die, if I'm being honest. I disagree with Luke there. I think he's probably playing this down a little bit. Paul Rowley in his press conference saying that he'll be the last man standing, that he's not going to turn his back on his players, his loyalty is to his players. There's the two squads. Like I say, massive blow for Huddersfield again. No Tom Burgess either. He's out of this game. He's not going to be playing. He's had an indifferent start to his life at the Giants, it has to be said. Clune out for 7 to 8 weeks. That's a hammer blow. Guy obviously out with HIA. So the man at the bottom of the screen there, Niall Levels, will be playing at fullback. I think there's no doubt about that. There's enough quality there in the Huddersfield side to go to Salford and to win. We've waxed lyrically this season in terms of some of their players, like the Ollie Wilsons of this world, who's had a stellar start to the season. When you look at that Huddersfield side, Steph, and then you look at the Salford side, and again, going back to the big minutes that Almonroyd and Hill had to put in against Bradford, it's fair to say you'd expect Huddersfield to be fresher. And should go into this as favourites.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at that Huddersfield squad, it's actually, on paper, it's a pretty decent squad, that, isn't it? And having Niall Levels coming in that fullback position is going to really give them a bit of spark, I'd say, in this one. It's always good when you get a new player coming in. It can just have that bit of motivation for a bit of a positivity factor. They will obviously be targeting this their first W. Obviously, Burgess is another big loss. I mean, I don't even know about Burgess, so it's just I'm laughing because if you don't laugh, you'd cry as a Huddersfield fan, wouldn't you? In terms of the situation they find themselves in, but no, it's I mean that Salford side is a good side as well, and I think the surprising stat from the screen before is only 3 tries. With the attacking prowess of Salford and what they were renowned for last season, there's plenty of try scorers in that Salford team, so it's a really exciting one. This is I'm intrigued into what's going to happen tonight. I can't wait to get a beer and tune into this one.
I think the thing for me, mate, is that, the big gaps, of course, are Tim Lafai. Tim Lafai has been ripping it up in Super League now for many a year. And Nene McDonald, Nene McDonald in his 3 appearances, remarkably this season, he hasn't scored a try. He hasn't made a try. But we know. Don't know what happened there. Five clean breaks from Nene this season. We've also had 15 tackle busts from him this season. The bottom line is he's a running machine. 367 metres in 3 games, so that's an average of about 120, just over. They haven't got that. They haven't got Tim Lafai. They now haven't got Mark Sneed to marshal them around the field. Obviously, Paul was happy that he had Jaden Nikarima back last week and Ethan Ryan, and 2 good additions to his squad. But like I say, in terms of the effort they had to put in, especially the front units, and you look at the average age as well now of the Salford team as well, the emotional turmoil as well. I go back to what Luke said at the end of his press conference. I think this is a massive game for Luke Robinson. I think if he doesn't win this, he was unlucky against Hull. We always go back to that game. He was unlucky against Hull. He threw that one away. Yeah, he has to win this game. He has to.
Yeah, they need to get rid of the monkey off the back, which is this 40-minute performance. That's the biggest one for Huddersfield. And the longer that goes on, and especially if it is that where they are winning at half-time and lose again, it becomes a habit, doesn't it? I think it's getting to the point now of must-win games, especially with that team that they've got out there. I'm surprised how good it is, considering the players that they've got out, which shows they've got a decent squad. And when they're all fit, they could be a threat to anybody. But I think the interesting one from Salford's side of things is who's going to be the centres, because obviously you're going to put Ethan Masters is one of them, isn't it? Do they put Watkins in at the other centre? And also at halfback with losing Sneed, they'll put Nikarima in there, obviously. But
Atkin, I think.
Atkin, yeah. So.
Yeah. I think you're right about Watkins. I think logically he goes into centre. They've got the likes of Chan that can come in and cover it at second row. But the thing is, you've got Shane Wright there as well. So they've got options there in the back line. Shorrocks is there at loose forward. So I'd expect Callum lining up in the centres. Kai Morgan will be interested to see if he can back up on what was a sparkling. I thought the run for the Watkins try last time out in Super League was wonderful. But for me, there's no real surprise here. The 2 players I picked out is Ryan Briley and Niall Evans on debut. And neither of these 2 players have really hit the straps yet in 2025 Super League. They've not. But we know they've got the quality to him. You look at Evans' stats there, 2 assists, no tries. He was ripping it up last year for fun. Maybe, what we discussed on Weekly, that's been playing on his mind. The fact that he's back in Huddersfield, he can concentrate on his rugby. He's never at home. Maybe we'll see a completely different Niall Levels this evening when these 2 come in. They're very similar. They both like to run on the ball. And I think that these 2 players in attacking phases are vitally important this evening. And I think that of the 2 of them, the one that tends to sparkle the most is Niall Levels.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, obviously, with what Niall's been through with his child and stuff, I think just for him to be settled, because he's a Huddersfield lad, I think, isn't he? So just to be back home and with that support network there will hopefully get him back to where he was last season in terms of his performances. But obviously very unlucky to get that HIA played against Salford, wasn't it, for Hull KR? So that's obviously setting back a little bit this season as well. But I think Niall could be the difference on debut this evening to just give Huddersfield that bit more in attack. And it's also going to really help Swift, I think, linking up, because he likes Evans likes to break to the left-hand side, and obviously with Swift being there, he's one of the most dangerous wingers if you feed him. So that could be a real key matchup for Huddersfield.
Well, we have said this season, Gagai has been encroaching into that area. It'll be very interesting to see Niall Levels, because, again, in Luke Robinson's press conference, he did say that Gagai will be one, hinting maybe that Evans will play more on the wing. But I'll tell you now, if Niall Levels has a man-of-the-match performance tonight at fullback and actually does what he did at KR, breaking lines, setting up his wingers, setting up his halfbacks, that's going to be an interesting one to watch, because we all think that Evans has got class. Only one person has backed Salford in the prediction league. That's Greg, 1 to 8. Everybody else has gone Huddersfield, ranging from 1 to 8 to 9 to 17. I think it was myself who went 9 to 17. Huddersfield, everybody else went 1 to 8. It'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. Right, let's change focus now to this little beauty. We have to say, Steph, the two surprise. Well, that's wrong. One surprise package in Hull FC. We didn't expect what we've had from Hull FC, and then Waker have just been purring along quite nicely. They're in great form. History on the side of FC. Last 3 meetings, obviously. This is going back a while. 3-2 in the favour of FC. That counts for nothing. The form guide, of course, brilliant win last time out for Wakefield against the Wire. And, let's be fair, other than going down to Wigan, and there's nothing wrong with that, Hull FC have been pretty flawless in terms of results. The great draw against Lee, that was 30 in round 4. Look at that. Try scored, 11 apiece. Tackle efficiency, 4% in its kicking. That's a bit of an Achilles heel for Hull FC. Better kicking percentage there from Wakefield. And in games like this, that could really matter. And the penalty is very, very close. All that says this should be a little belter. And at the start of the season, perhaps we wouldn't have been thinking that. We wouldn't be that excited about this. But actually, this has got a great narrative. Can Wakey do it again? Can Hull FC carry on? Not surprising, but carrying on their run of great form.
Yeah, I mean, well, Hull FC will be buoyed by that win over Wigan. It's whether it takes the emotion of what that performance, whether that takes anything out of them for this game. You'd like to think that they would use it as a massive advantage to them in terms of backing up off that performance. But both sides are very, very even for me, both in forward pack. It's SASA versus McMeekin. That's it'll be a thing. And then you've got obviously Tom Johnson versus Harvey Barron and Lewis Martin on the other side as well. So there's some really intriguing matchups in this one. I think it's going to be an absolute belter, and I think this could potentially be the closest game of the round.
Well, we know Wakefield won't give a backward step. Let's check in with Darryl Powell and John Cartwright ahead of this one.
Obviously landed pretty awkward. He took a high ball really well and then lands awkward on his right leg. So I'm hopeful he's going to come out of it pretty quick. He's obviously been an important player for us. But that again gives an opportunity for Josh Rourke to come in and around the team and see how good he can be. Obviously did a great job at London last year, and the one game he's played for us, he was pretty good playing on the wing. So looking forward to see what he can do.
Yeah, I think as the game wore on, we did grow more in confidence. The more we were able to defend our line, and I think we took a lot out of the period where John Asiata was sin bin. That game really could have been gone in that moment, but they knuckled down, and we actually got a try out of it. And then when John came back on, he sort of lifted everyone. He had a 10-minute spell on the sideline, so he was fresh, and he really threatened the Wigan defensive line when he came back on. And it's probably that period then was the best football that we've played all year. We come up with some really good pieces of football to score tries. Also, we had to work coming off our own end a fair bit, and we used the football a fair bit to do that. So that takes confidence, and it takes time together.
He's a fantastic leader, is what I've seen in the short period of time he's been here. He doesn't speak for the sake of speaking, which has been the biggest attribute I've noticed in him, and he really cares about his players. And I think those elements brought together, and he's a 6'4" bloke.
He's
stature,
massive. He's massive.
And for what he's done in the game as well, he earns the respect of the room when he stands there. And I think that's what they've wanted. They've wanted someone to come in and instill some discipline, some standards. And from day one, he said, "This is the standard. If you don't meet it, unfortunately, you won't be a part of my team." And
so, what is the standard?
Being a good pro. That's ultimately we haven't been that way for a long period of time. Like
easily folded last week, I think, and the league game as well. They fought back from a really tough position and scored right at the death. So they're much more durable than they have been in recent past. They've signed I think they've signed even more new players than us. So it's a complete rebuild really. I think Herman SCSA, Caesar and Asiata, they're really dangerous players who who play a certain way that puts pressure on opposition teams. They've shown that, the scoring points and the dangerous attacking team. So I think more than anything, I'd say they just look more durable. They look like they don't fold, even if they get behind. They're still hanging in there, and no, it's great to have that in a team.
Look, I've sort of said from day one, I don't put a limit on what this group can do. Like I don't know them sort of intimately enough to gauge. It really is a week to week thing. We've had I think we've had 5 games we've been towed by Wigan. The rest of them have been pretty tight affairs. And you can, in those tight affairs, you don't always win. You can lose a few along the way. We've been fortunate that we've drawn one and we've won the other 3. So that's got us sitting pretty well. If we lost 2 of those, we're sitting at the bottom, sort of scratching our head. What that does give you, though, is you can win tight games. Your boys compete hard and they play to the end. And just with the guys that came in reasonably late in Aidan Caesar, Jordan Rapana, and Cade Cust, who I know pretty well, I just know I've got 3 real competitors there who that not concerned about who's in the opposition team. In a good way, they think that they can win every time they run onto the field. They're not bothered about what the opposition are going to bring, and that's a rare talent to have. You only get that through practice. You get some young fellas who come along every now and then who are like that, but that's a learnt thing, and it takes time to learn, and you've got to learn it from guys within your room. So I've picked up along the way that we've got a few more of those types of guys in the squad who just not fazed by who they're coming up against. And so, like I say, I'm only 5 games in. We've got a long, long way to go. We're really happy with where we're sitting.
So there you go. Interesting, very interesting. The more I listen to Cartwright, the more I'm impressed by him. He really is. Dare I say, the confidence that must give his players. He's clearly got the backs. He's got a lot of faith and a lot in their abilities. And they're rewarding him tenfold, Steph. And I know you're a big fan of his on what you've seen this season. It's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we're spending too much time together, because I was about to say exactly the same thing. I think he's just calm. It's a calm energy that he brings, and obviously that'll be very reassuring for his squad, and you can see why. He's getting the best out of those players, and I like what Myler said as well in terms of, these are your standards, and if you're not meeting them, then I'm sorry, boys, you're not going to be in my team. It's a very fair thing to say, and also players if the players know there's a line where they need to be at, then it's very clear. If they dip below those performance levels, he's going to drop them. So they have to keep these standards up, and it can't just be a flash in the pan. Beginning of the season, we've done all right, we can relax now. And I don't think he'll allow that. And I think he's coming across as an exceptional coach to me, a very, very, very high caliber coach. So,
well, he's been in and around the NRL for many, many years, and he's revered in terms of the job he's done as an assistant over there. And of course, we tend to find that really good assistant coaches in the NRL apply themselves very well as head coaches in the Super League to eventually go back and take a plum position. And if he can lead FC in his first season to playoff rugby league, and dare say it, anything's possible in the Challenge Cup. They've earned the right, having beat Wigan Warriors, to go to Wembley. Let's be absolutely clear on that. There's a very strong possibility down the track he could get perhaps for him a dream job as being an NRL coach. We're a long way off that at this moment in time. You'll notice there, Steph, if you look at the squad list of Wakefield Trinity, massive blow for Wakey. Matt Staunton out for 4 months with a knee injury. That's a big blow for them. Max Jowett still in a boot. They're not quite sure how long he's going to be. And then another one's out as well in Vagana. And I think Vagana's had a really solid start, Isaiah Vagana. He really has. So there's 3 big blows there for Wakey. However, and we'll come back to this in a moment, this man's back. And I, for one, I'm really excited by this. I felt for Josh Rourke in terms of not having much game time thus far this season since going to Wakefield. Of course, Max Jowett preferred at fullback. Now's the time for Rourke to show his mettle and to, as we've seen many times before, to make this position his own, to make it difficult for Max Jowett to go straight back into the side. This was his performances last season, 12 appearances. If you remember, he didn't appear until round 16 in 2024. 8 tries, 1 assist, 8 line breaks, 32 carries, 100 metres was his averages when he played. We were very impressed with Josh Rourke last year at London, and we felt that it was an astute bit of business that Darryl Powell had done to bring him in. Are you as excited as me that Josh Rourke is now going to get his opportunity at Wakey?
Yeah, well, it's the classic thing with any squad. Through adversity comes opportunity, and it's up to players like this. We know what Rourke's capable of. In a London team, that wasn't the greatest. He was one of the shining stars in that team. Was Wakefield the right place for him to go with Jowett being there and obviously being the first choice? It's going to be difficult for him to displace Jowett because I think he's made a fantastic start to his second run at Super League. But it's his opportunity now, and if he's got to make himself undroppable, and he's definitely got the potential to do that. What I didn't like with him is putting him on the wing because I don't think he is a winger. I think he is a fullback. And the problem when you start playing players out of position to cover injuries or whatever is I think that can be a bit detrimental to that player, not only in terms of performance but confidence as well. So yeah, I think it's his opportunity now to really set a marker down and show how good he is at that fullback position.
Yeah, just looking down the lineup there as well for the Hull FC. No Harry Barron in the squad, which they didn't make a big thing of. Ed Chamberlain back. For the black and whites, Liam Watson, Sam Esser as well, of course, new recruits there in the squad, so their pack has been bolstered going into this. It's a massive game, I think, again, for both sides for different reasons. I mean, if Wakey will want to keep it close minimum and continue to be a difficult team to break down and beat. They will fancy the chances. Don't get me wrong, at home. Why wouldn't they? They'll really fancy it. I'm sure there'll be a good crowd there. And like I've already said, from an FC perspective, if they were to win this, like I say, we're then at round 5, I always say round 8, they would then, I think, we'd be talking serious playoff contenders, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and I think don't forget on this one as well, there's a big monkey on Wakefield's back in that they've not won at home yet. So that's a big one that, again, like we talked about with Huddersfield earlier, these things can become a habit. So I think this is a massive game for Wakefield as well as Hull FC. But to get that monkey off the back and get that first home win for that sold out crowd at Bellevue, or what's the name of the stadium?
DIY Kitchen Stadium. Absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, Jay Pitts is back in that squad again. Makes them tick at loose forward, and I'm also pleased that Rodwell's back in the squad. I think it's fascinating. I think the middle unit battle is going to be outstanding. We know they've got the players, and the man that's pictured there, Cam Scott, could he be the match winner against his former club? That was one that surprised us all last year when he was allowed to leave the MKM Stadium. Could he come back to haunt his old team on Friday? Who knows? But it's going to be fantastic fare. Speaking of fantastic fare, here we go. Warrington taking on the Saints at the Totally Wicked Stadium. They're going to be playing each other 3 times between now and the end of April. Unbelievable. I mean, it doesn't really need building up too much, this, to be quite frank. It's an incredible fixture. Always is, always delivers. Last 3 meetings, though, all gone the way of Warrington. Warrington a perfect 4-0 against Saints last year. Let's not forget that. Warrington's form dipped. Obviously, they got the win against Widnes, and that was a battling win as well. Saints, of course, losing the last time out as well. Like I say, not been a great start, I think, for Warrington. Saints will be disappointed, of course, that they came unstuck in round number 4. Try scored because of the teams that Saints have played. We've already been there and done it. They'll trump many teams this year in terms of that. They got a good start against Salford early doors. Tackle efficiency, very little in it. Conversion efficiency, Warrington 78.5. Now, of course, they've got Mark Sneed to bolster that. Sneed, I think I'm right in saying, last year, I think bordering 90% efficiency last year. Incredible. But yeah, I mean, it's teed up. Saints will want revenge for last year. Warrington will want to keep that unbeaten streak going against Saints. It's a fascinating game, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And again, one that's probably going to be dominated by injuries as well, in terms of Felt's now out, isn't he, for St Helens? I think they've got a bit of crisis in the backs. I've heard talks of them potentially trying Moses Mbai at centre for this one, but obviously he has played centre before. He's represented State of Origin in the centre position, which most people won't know. So it'd be very interesting if he does get the nod in the centre position for this one. But yeah, really interesting. Good for Warrington that Duffy's potentially back for this one.
And King and Ashton and Fitzgibbon all in the squad. That's surprised many a Warrington fan. So again, questions over fitness would of course come into that. Would they all come back in one go? Question marks there. Of course, Aaron Lindop back in the squad for his HIA. So Warrington squad looking a little bit better. And of course, the addition of Sneed is a big one. You've already mentioned Carl Felt. He's going to be out for quite a reasonable period. He's having an operation on his hand, so he's going to be missing. Joe Batchelor, of course, out due to head injury assessment, and Jake Burns is out. In comes Ben Davis, George Whitby, the young halfback, and Dayan Sambo. He's in there as well. That's the kid who's going to be making his way over to Wigan at the end of the season. I've seen him play in the reserves. He's a back row. He's a back, very quick. Good player. It'd be interesting. Don't think he'll get a look in here. I think he's just been named in the squad, but like I say, he's an interesting player for the future. Geordie Crowther joins Luke Yates on the sideline. Geordie Crowther, you'll notice, not in the Warrington squad. Before we get into, we'll do a little bit of a build-up on this. Sam Burgess has spoken. Of course, they don't record the press conferences now, Warrington. It's going to be a challenge against Saints. Pretty physical, but we're looking forward to testing ourselves. Better energy around the place is what he's saying. The group isn't lacking any confidence. He said he stripped it back this week, which is interesting. High standards within the club need to be maintained. He's looking for a better Warrington performance. And going off the GPS data, he did say that the key markers in the game against Wynn suggest that Warrington have tidied a few things up and will be healthier. Let's hear now from Paul Wellens, and then we'll carry on our discussion.
Exactly. I think it's circumstances can often work out like that. So yeah, it's a great fixture. A real derby atmosphere to those games now. So we'll get to play them 3 times, I think, in 30 days. So we're looking forward to the challenge. Obviously, there's other games in between those, but the Warrington game is always a game that we look forward to.
The circumstances weren't great, but I had to make a decision, and obviously I'm over the moon to be here. It's a really big club with a lot of ambition, and hopefully I can add to the already good squad and do something decent. They're obviously a loud group, especially here at home, and it'll be good to have them on side rather than kicking in front of them on that side and feeling out on the back of my neck. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting going.
He's a stereotypical scrum half who's been around the game a long time, who organises the team really well, and I think because he is such a smart player, some people would think it would take time to bed into the new way of doing things, but I could see a player of Mark's calibre adapting pretty quickly though. He obviously kicks the ball really well, and I think he'll continue to do that. Whichever team he plays for. So he's always a threat when you come up against him. It's no different this weekend.
I mean, there's no doubt about it, Steph. Sky will be all over Sneed. I mean, if you want to learn more about Mark Sneed, just turn into the pre-show on Sky on Friday night, because I think for the whole half hour that's all that's going to be discussed, and rightly so. I mean, it is a big signing for Warrington, but I think this is key. I think Johnny Lomax this year. I mean, don't let the stats fool you there. I think Johnny Lomax, by his own high standards, hasn't had the greatest start to 2025. You've got to remember who Saints have played in a little bit of what you're seeing there. And both very different players. We know that Sneed is all about the attacking kicks in general play, working his team around the field, something that Warrington's not had for a while. Lomax is a little bit of both. Not necessarily the organiser, not necessarily the kicker. He's more that little bit of flair. But like I say, this for me a real key battle. I've said the 2 veterans. This is a big part of the field for me. Who gets the upper hand? And we're not even talking about the likes of Williams and Saylor, But these 2, they've been there, they've done it, they've got the T-shirt. These are the marshals. It's going to be big, isn't it?
It is, and I think what Mark Sneed brings, you're absolutely right, is what Warrington have lacked is real positional kicking, putting teams in a corner and backing your defence to maintain that territory. And I think what it will do as well is it's going to unleash George Williams for me. I think he's going to take so much pressure off George, which will allow him to be more creative, link up more with Dufty coming through the back and stuff like that. So and leave the positional and territorial stuff to Mark. And I think that's going to work. You know, they're going to be the yin to the yang for each other, I think, and it's going to really complement it. Lomax, I think you're absolutely right as well to highlight by his standards. He hasn't been great this season, and I don't think he was towards the back end of last season either. But we all know how good of a player Johnny is, and he has. If he starts to turn it on, then that'll be the biggest difference for St Helens. It'll make a complete change to the way they're playing. But I think it's going to be another cracking game. I think we're blessed. We see this seems to be saying this week in, week out, but the matchups just seem to be fitting perfectly, don't they, for these games at the minute? Two very, very similar squads in terms of capability for me. And it's going to be fascinating to see who comes out on top. Obviously, being at Saints as well with that Saints crowd. If it's not going their way, then things could turn. And we saw last year Warrington put a score on them at the Totally Wicked, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They did. I mean, look, again, we talk there about the halfbacks, but again, the middle units in this, you know, Matty Lee's back. That's big for Saints. They really missed him against KR. Massive to have him back. Obviously, the likes of Delaney and Parsi and you know, Wormsley doesn't need any introduction. Very surprised Noah Stevens and more of a looking this year. Whether he gets a looking in this, we'll wait and see. But again, I think, as shown against Widnes, James Harrison is a massive player in this one for Warrington.
Yeah, definitely. And he's been probably, I'd say, Warrington's best player this season so far, especially definitely the best forward. He's been absolutely massive. So he'll be crucial again for, if he can set that platform for your likes of Marks need to get the attacking kicks away, then that's going to be a massive factor in this game. What I would say about St Helens, what we have seen from them this season, though, even under massive pressure like they were against Hull KR, they still defended pretty decently, you know, despite what was chucked at them. So that's probably a biggest tick in the box for Paul Wellens' side in this one, is that even if they're not showing everything that they're capable of attacking wise, I think defensively, given the teams they've played, they've been sound.
Well, I think there's another little one here as well that would be amiss of us not to mention. We're probably going to see young Harry Robertson come up against young Aaron Lindop, and that is going to be a real look into the future. Two great players going head to head. One a little whippet in Robertson, Lindop probably a little bit more bulky. Which one comes on top of that? That's going to be a fascinating little battle there on that edge as well. We look forward to it. Very interesting indeed. I mean, just looking down here again, a lot of split decisions on this in terms of Warrington or Saint. The vast majority going the way of Saints based on form. We did say that they just looked a little bit better up to now this season. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting.
Who did I pick? I can't remember.
You went, my friend, for Saints 1-8.
Right. Well, given I know we can't change it, but given the players that I've seen that have come back into Warrington, I'm surprised that the amount that have come back in terms of Dufty, King. So it could go either way. It could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised with a Warrington win based on.
You toss a coin, mate. You can toss a coin here. It's going to be fascinating, absolutely fascinating. As will this, two teams that exited the Challenge Cup at the weekend. One by surprise, the other probably not too much of a surprise. But yeah, the Wigan Warriors will be seething as they go to the Leeds Rhinos, and Leeds Rhinos will expect big things against their old adversaries as well. They've actually had the upper hand in the last 5 Super League meetings of Leeds, 3-2 in their favourite history, of course, on the side of the Warriors. But the form guide, as you can see there, 3 wins for, that doesn't look right actually for Leeds.
Not right. 2. I was going to say Leeds have won 2.
Yeah, Leeds have definitely got 2. My apologies for that. Leeds have won 2 this season. They've beaten, of course, Wakefield Trinity. Who's the other win they got?
Oh, Salford.
Was it Cass? Or was it Salford? Salford, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, apologies for that. I don't know where that's come from, but definitely 3 wins on the trot for the Wigan Warriors in Super League. Try scored 24-15. Tackle efficiency, that surprised me when I put this together. Leeds better. So much so I had to check the numbers on that because I was like, really? And yeah, Leeds at the moment defensively making less errors in defence, which is interesting. Conversion percentage, I mean, that's a shocker. At 64.7, plays 87.5. Penalty count as well, going more the way of the Rhinos. They're going to have to be disciplined. They're going to have to be good against the Wigan Warriors. Let's what we're going to do. Let's take a look at the squads first. Let's do this a little bit differently. Of course, Miller back at fullback gives them some options in terms of where to play Connor. Did he put Hanley back on the wing? I think in a game of this stature, I like Riley Lum, don't get me wrong, but I think you could forgive Leeds putting Ash Hanley back on the wing, putting Connor in the centres, going with a bit of experience in the back line. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't drop Lum. I think Lum. No, I'd drop Ryan Hall.
No, but he's definitely. They've said he's playing. He's doing. It's his 500th career appearance this Saturday. He's definitely playing.
Yeah, well, if they're going to do that, then I think you can't not put Connor in, because he's been probably the brightest thing about Leeds this season so far. And obviously Lockie Miller is an out-and-out fullback, isn't he? So I think they're going to have to put Connor in the centres. I don't think it's a bad thing that they move Ash Hanley to the wing. I think that's his better position. But people have been messaging me saying that Hanley's been great in the centre, and he's got 3 assists and 2 tries. My response to that was, well, how many tries would he have had on the wing? Because it would have been a lot more than the 2 tries. I'll tell you that for nothing. So yeah, really intriguing in terms of their team selection and where they're going to play players, because they have got a couple that are where you'd say, that's not really their position. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see Brad Arthur and show what a top coach he is in this one.
Well, the other thing they could do, and I appreciate Frawley's back in the squad, they could put Connor in at halves.
Yeah.
Could do, and leave Lummy where he is and go with that setup.
Or Connor on the bench and bring him on as an impact player. But I think that would be a crazy decision given the impact he's had on Leeds this season.
Well, I mean, Jake Connor, there's always a side issue with Connor in games like this. Are we going to see the genius, or are we going to see, the referee? Which one are we going to see? It's going to be fascinating to see that one. I mean, big surprises on the Wigan side. Jai Field, I do not expect Field to play. I really don't. In fact, let's go. Let's just have a little read. We've not heard anything yet from the Leeds. Obviously, we're recording this in the afternoon. Leeds still to release their press conference, which is very surprising for Leeds. Normally, they're well ahead of the game. But Matty Pete has been out there, talking the game up, as you can read there, folks, in terms of the history of the game between these two sides. Bigging up also the backs of the Leeds Rhinos. On about, of course, needing a good fan base. Kieran out. We knew about that. MCL. He's going to be out for the foreseeable. But it says there, Jai Field had these sort of injuries before. We've got some more appointments before we're able to put a time frame on it. So for me, if there's appointments around Jai Field, he ain't playing. No. I just don't see him playing. So I would expect, with Abbas Miski coming in for Kieran, the likelihood is here that we're probably going to see Walters in centre. I'd be surprised if that wasn't the case. I could see Eckersley going to full-back and Abbas Miski deputising for Eckersley on the wing.
Yeah, Walters would be a big shout in the centres. But
he has played there before, though, hasn't he, mate? That's the process. They do tend to drop him back when required into that role.
Yeah. I would potentially think they may put Jack Farrimond in the halves with Smith and move French to fullback. Then you could put Eckersley in the centres. Then.
Let's be fair. French had a nightmare against FC in the second half when he was at fullback.
Yeah.
And I just think you take so much out. And I think for me, you're breaking things that aren't broken if you move French away from the halves. I think you've got to leave him there, because that's where he does. The guy has been box office in that position. Yeah. And I think what Eckersley, in my mind, goes back to Eckersley against Saints last season, when Eckersley came in at fullback and scored 2 tries and got man of the match. So we know Eckersley can slot in there. And I think it's less disruptive to put Eckersley at fullback and just put Miski in for Eckersley. I mean, that's easy. That's a simple fix. In those 2 positions, then it's about who joins Wardle at centre. And like I say, I know Walters has deputised a couple of times for them. But Wigan will be filthy, won't they? You know, having gone out of the Challenge Cup, you know, I think you've said it many a time, very seldom Wigan lose back-to-back. Leeds will have to be on the game and hope that Wigan have a little bit of a carryover from the Challenge Cup. But, I mean, Leeds have got a great record. Let's not forget, Leeds put a right performance on Wigan last season at Headingley, didn't they?
Yeah, and there'll be a big crowd on for this, as there always is at Headingley. And I think that's the key in this one, is if they can get a bit of momentum going and get the crowd on the side, because that's an 18th man for them, isn't it? The side stand there. If they can get behind Leeds and a few things go in their favour, then who's to say they couldn't turn Wigan over? If Hull FC can do it, then Leeds can definitely do it at home.
Well, I'll be tuning in. I think this will be a fascinating game. If you're a Leeds fan, don't bother going. Nobody's back your team. Not a single person's back your team. But I'll tell you now, there's enough quality in your side to do it. And what we absolutely know here, and I think you mentioned this again on Weekly, we spoke about it briefly. The forwards of Leeds, if they play, dare I say it, like they have to this point in the season, they're going to get steamrolled by Wigan. They're going to get steamrolled. They have to stand up. The likes of Palacia, Aledzki, they really do need to stand up on this one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Jared O'Connor's a big player for them as well. No Ackers is there. I think Ackers is injured, isn't he?
He's out, yeah. Hamstring injury, so he's gone for 12 weeks, the same.
Well, that's that. I mean, obviously that's very sad for Andy, but I think Jared O'Connor's going to have to play more minutes, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing for Leeds. I think a lot of the times when Leeds have done good stuff, Jared's been leading the way on that one. So I really rate Jared O'Connor as a player, and I think he could be a bit of a key factor in this game for Leeds if they're going to do the surprise and beat Wigan.
Well, like I say, they did it last year. They absolutely tormented Wigan last season. And Wigan, like, if you remember last year, Wigan were just coasting along quite nicely. And then they had a little wobble. And the performances, pretty much compact, just started to go off kilter. And then, of course, they got themselves back on track. Could that be the case again at this point in the season? We'll wait and we'll see. I thought Cooper Jenkins had a decent game as well last time out for Leeds when I was watching Leeds.
Yeah,
he's got a little bit of something about him, but you've got to feel for Andy Ackers. I mean, it's just not got going for him. I mean, when he went to Leeds at the start of last season, it's fair to say we were talking international Andy Ackers. His form was that good, and since he's gone to Leeds, his career has just proper stuttered for him. You've got to feel, because he's a great number 9.
Yeah, he is. He's a great player. But you're absolutely right. He's just not got going, has it? It's that thing with Andy's potential, and everyone thought going to Leeds it was going to be nailed on probably for the England 9 job. But yeah, it's never good when players get injured, and we don't want to see that for anybody. We want the best players on the pitch all the time. But yeah, sad for him, but hopefully he can come back stronger and be ready for the back end of the season.
Yeah, we wish him well. Great player, but this is a great game. Really looking forward to this one on Saturday. As too is another very interesting game. The Castleford Tigers taking on the Catalan Dragons. Of course, Brad Singleton now at the Tigers. Rumours also that Ormonwood might be going as well. Another Salford player. That's interesting. We'll keep an ear to the ground on that. Of course, in the squad for Salford tonight is Ormonwood. Had a great game of the weekend. We've already said that. Very, very even really in Super League history between these two. Only 4 games in it to Catalan's favour. Catalan winning 3-2 in the last ones. Of course, a win for Castleford last time out. Both exactly the same record. Incredible, really, to see that. Try scored more by the Tigers. Now, the fact that I'm saying that at the start of this season, with the quality of the players that the Dragons brought in, would you have ever envisaged that we'd be doing a captain's run, round 5, and the Tigers had scored more tries than the Dragons?
No, it's an incredible stat, really. But that just goes to show how much Catalan have underperformed so far this season. Obviously, getting very interesting that they both got the win on the last run out as well. So at least both of those have got rid of that unwanted record of without a 2 points. So yeah, like we said earlier, the matchups this week are just phenomenal, aren't they? You know, another one that's going to be fascinating to see who comes out on top and whether Catalan travel well to the jungle. But after the last performance by Castleford, their fans are going to be right on top, and we all know how close the fans are to the game at the jungle. So they'll be right up for this one. Is it Saturday night, this one as well?
Saturday, yeah. So
Saturday night fever at the jungle. It's going to be a raucous crowd there, isn't it? And they're going to be baying for some dragon blood.
Well, without doubt, it's going to be unbelievable. I mean, again, you know, you look at another problem for the Dragons is the kicking, 57.1. I mean, they've only scored 6, but they've had, of course, the conversion attempts as well. 57% with a boot. That's a hammer blow and a problem for them as well, especially in tight games. But this really is going to be very, very interesting. And again, you talk about pressure. Steve McNamara was to come away from the jungle with another defeat. That would be some massive pressure on Steve McNamara. And there's no doubt about that whatsoever. Obviously, Brad Singleton now put in to Castleford squad. Dan Okoro came out with some. He's getting some raps as well. Early doors. There's enough quality there in the Castleford squad that left edge now appears to be coming back to where it was last year, looking a bit more dangerous. Simbikin back. That's a massive bonus for the Castleford Tigers because, you know, let's be fair, Jeremiah Simbikin has been a real standout performer thus far this season from.
Yeah, he has. He's great for them to get him back. I think him and Rimbu have been great in terms of their signings. I think what's he called? Cine has been really good for Cass. I believe young Fletcher Rooney's injured.
It's a massive blow. 4-month injury, high grade quadriceps injuries is what I've heard.
Yeah,
such a shame because Rooney's been in great form.
Absolutely, but again, like we spoke before about adversity becomes opportunity. I think they'll move Tex Hoy back to the fullback position. Going to be getting Rowan Milne back, so that's going to be massive for Castleford. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one. And then on the Catalan side, obviously Sam Tompkins coming back into the team, scored a brace in the Challenge Cup victory, I think, over Featherstone. So he's obviously back fit, which is great to see for Sam. I think Remy Smith's been fantastic for them in the games I've seen him this season. He's been a real standout, and if he can form a partnership with Kotrick, that's going to be massive for Catalan in terms of the try scored, which we highlighted earlier on. So Pangai Jr. again, he can get another run going because he had a week where he missed out, didn't he? I think the league game he missed. So yeah, it's going to be intriguing to see which Catalan tide turns up, but obviously they'll take a bit of confidence from that recent Super League victory over Leeds and the Challenge Cup victory over Featherstone. So technically they're in a bit of form at the moment.
Well, I think the thing where, I mean, obviously they've had the rest, Castleford, so in terms of that can either work for you or against you. Yeah. But I think where Steve Mack's concerned and why he has to win this game is that it's pretty much full strength. There's not an awful lot there now that's missing as far as they're concerned. You know, you look down that list of players, they're pretty much full strength. The only problem that they have got is in the halves because, of course, Theo Farge again is missing. So the likelihood is it'll probably be Cesar Rouget, or they might even put Tompkins in there and put Rouget to full back. They've done that before now. But I mean, as you look at certainly in the forward areas, you know, Desiree is back, Neverette's back, Satai's back. You know, they've got big units of the Catalan Dragons, and that for me is the key to their game. You know, with a pack as imposing as that, because it is imposing, they should be dominating down the middle. And that then should open up space around the edges. But what we've seen from Catalan last season and this is that they do win the battle, but then they can't convert on the edges.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's room for improvement in both sides, but I think the pressure really is on Steve Mack. If he was to lose another one against a side that, like, based on the signings Catalan have made and where everyone was predicting them, if they were to lose another game against what's perceived to be a weaker side, then that really ramps up the pressure on them. But But yeah, the injuries. I don't know if it's it just feels like it, but there's so many injuries to start this season, isn't there, with key players as well. It does seem higher than normal. I don't know if it is, but it just feels that way.
It's been probably colder than normal as well, and cold can have an effect on that as well. And it has been, I think, a colder February in March than what we've been used to over the last few years. 4-3 in the favour of the Dragons. People have gone on this one. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. And then, of course, the final game. Nothing's coming on this one yet. No squads. No nothing. That's due out tomorrow. But it's two unbeaten teams going head-to-head. These have got a great rivalry. It's one not to be missed on Sunday. Should be on Sky. It's an absolute bell ringer of a game, this one. Can't wait for it. Like I say, we don't know what's going to happen. We know, I think you said that Mullen's not going to be playing. So tight. That's 4-1. I mean, that again, surprising. You know, everybody thinks that Lee got a great record against KR because, of course, your mind goes back to the Challenge Cup final. But actually, it's KR that's actually got a great record against Lee. Just didn't manage to get the win when it counted at Wembley. You go into this game from a Lee perspective. This is a tough ask. If you came away with winning this one, again, that'd be a massive statement of intent from Lee, wouldn't it?
Oh, it'd be absolutely massive for Lee to get the victory at KR would be huge. Like you pointed out, since that Challenge Cup final, we haven't beaten Hull KR. So been some close games, and there's been a couple that Hull have run away with. But yeah, if you look at those stats, I mean, you know, two unbeaten sides, phenomenal records. Couldn't be closer with those stats. Look at the tackle efficiency, near enough exactly the same. Penalties near enough exactly the same. Both quite well disciplined sides, Lee and Hull KR, in terms of giving the penalties away, and that always tends to follow a pattern of a team that's been on top in games. So it's no coincidence that the penalty counts for both KR and Lee are only averaging 4 or 5 penalties a game, which is pretty decent. It's intriguing, a very intriguing game. Like we've said all along in this show, I feel like we're repeating ourselves. But what a matchup! Sunday afternoon, could you ask for better? It's going to be a humdinger, and I know Lee will throw everything at them. But I just think this is probably the first time this season where I've been a bit worried for Lee. I think Hull KR at home are very, very daunting for any side. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. You know, if the Lee players step up, they could do them. But I would be surprised. I'm expecting a Hull KR victory in this one.
Well, Joel of the non-members went Lee. The rest of us went KR. Look, I mean, obviously we haven't even spoke about Arthur Morg. I mean, Morg now, will be slotted in there, I'm sure, for KR. It's going to be a fascinating game. One thing is, I don't know what it is, but I think this is becoming one of those games now that people look forward to because both play an attractive style of rugby. They both want to go, they both try and win and win with a bit of flair and a bit of quality. I'm really looking forward to that on Sunday. One not to be missed in the Final Whistle podcast. I'm sure will be very interesting off the back of all these wonderful, wonderful games. We hope you look forward to them. Right, before we leave for Captain's Run this week, of course, there's just enough time for this.
Are you sick and tired of winning your bets every week? Want to contribute to the bookies' Christmas party? The bets to ignore when predicting the score. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Bet Steph.
Gotta be said, I love you, jingle, mate. Over to you.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can get a win this week. We're still yet to get a win on the old Bet Steph, but I thought that's probably comes with the slogan, the name to ignore when predicting the score. So yeah, so this week's six-fold. It's great that we've got a six-fold this week because they've actually give us Salford odds for this time of the week, which is great. So in terms of the handicap, I've gone for Huddersfield minus 4.5. I think they're going to just have a bit too much for Salford, so I think that's a pretty decent bet to take Huddersfield there. Warrington plus 5.5. So yeah, this is where I said before I predicted 1-8 for Saints, but maybe based on the information we've had on Team News, that's Warrington plus 5.5. That might be quite attractive for some people now. Hull FC plus 2.5. Again, I think Hull FC Wakefield is going to be a really close game and could even be a golden point. So that plus 2.5 could be the difference between a win-loss on the handicap. Castleford plus 8.5. wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility to Castleford to win this one outright. So I think an 8.5 start for them is really good value. Wigan minus 6.5. Based on the Hull FC loss, I can see Wigan coming out all guns blazing here. And I think to only be minus 6.5 in this one, based on Leeds' form so far this season as well, of a 50-50 record, I think that's a pretty decent handicap for the Wigan side. And Hull KR minus 7.5. I think it's going to be a close game for about 65 minutes between Lee and KR, but I can just see KR getting a couple of tries at the end to pull away from Lee. So I think 0.7.5 minus 7.5 is a pretty decent bet. So total ACCA value on that one is 47.81. So that means if you bet a pound on this one, Dave,
you're going to lose another pound, or you could win £47.81 plus your bet. Unbelievable. Anyway, if you don't fancy the 6-fold, maybe you'll fancy Steph's predictions for try scorers. Anytime try scorers to walk us through this week, Steph?
Yeah, so this is probably the most confident I've been. This one's going to come in, Dave. I'm absolutely convinced of it. Adam Swift, he just scores tries every week, doesn't he? So I picked him to bag another one against Salford tonight. I think that's going to happen. Matt Duffy against Saints. Well, Matt Duffy's a try scoring machine, isn't he? And I think if Warrington are going to get over for a few in this game, Matt Duffy's going to be one of the ones on the score sheet. And I've backed Ollie Pratt in this one. I think the way he matches up with especially if Chamberlain's going to be in the centres for Hull FC, I think that could be a little bit of a weak link for them. So potentially Ollie Pratt getting over. So really good triple full value on this one, 20.65 to 1 for those three. And based on them being, backs, I think that's really good value. So again, you bet a pound on that one, Dave.
You've now lost £2. Happy day. No, great stuff. Right. Lots to look forward to in the coming days. In the Sheds, of course, is back. That will be back tomorrow, the Salford-Huddersfield game. Of course, the Final Whistle podcast will be recorded on Sunday this week, back to the usual time of 8 o'clock. Do try and join us for that. Give us just let us know that you're coming on that. We'd love to have you company for the Final Whistle podcast. Of course, on Monday, me and Steph will be back for a round unpack, going through all of the action from round number 5. And of course, back as always, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. will be Super League Raw Weekly live this week. Steph, on behalf of everybody, yet again, thank you for your time and for your insight into round number 5. Enjoy your rugby league. I know I will. And we will be back with you all for round unpacked on Monday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. All the best.